TVB.
Bradford Anderson, what's going on, buddy?
I'm so excited to talk to our guest today because I don't think we've ever met officially. So this is we get to, visit with people we know all the time. This is a real privilege to meet somebody new, to expand my group of people. And the fact that it is this amazing lady, it makes it even better.
I know. I've met her briefly before, and she's awesome. I've heard only great things about her, and I'm glad that it was able to work out because she lives in another country. And she's taken time to do the podcast. We have Emma Sams with us today. We are so excited, Emma. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I've been better, but I'm all right.
Yes. Well, and it is evening where you are. So thank you for taking time out of your evening to hang out with these yahoos that are still on coffee. So
it's almost 1 o'clock here, actually.
I mean, as I said, it's late morning here. So 1 o'clock here too. Yes.
Yeah. That's it. So Emma, we're going to catch up with you and hear about your whole history of everything. But let's talk about
I'm very old.
Well, this is going to be our longest podcast ever. So it's going to last a week. It's going to be fine. So let's talk about this Dynasty reunion, because that's on the forefront now. It's getting a lot of publicity out there. So kind of just tell us how that came about and what you're doing it. And I know you're doing it for charity. So tell us a little bit about that.
So, as you may know, I got caught COVID in March of last year, so a year ago, and then bizarrely never got better. And whilst I'm in many ways very lucky because there are so many people who didn't get better. Then there are also people who have lost loved ones, and then there are people who have what's called long COVID, long haul COVID. But who have little kids to look after, or a job that they could lose if they don't show up. So in many ways, I'm completely blessed because I have a partner who's amazing and been really good about it. Or I don't have little kids anymore. My kids are actually old enough now to be sent running on errands and helping me out.
Yeah, useful children, amazing. Gosh, when does that tide turn? Because I'm waiting.
It's a gradual thing. But then one day you suddenly realize, oh my god, somebody actually changed the toilet paper without me doing it myself.
That's funny.
Amazing.
My son is a medical student, so that's useful.
For sure.
But no, so I decided that I was going to try and find out more about long COVID because nobody knows anything about it. It's a whole new deal. And not much research is being done into it yet because the doctors and scientists are still saving lives. Fair enough. Get that sorted first. And inventing vaccines and all those amazing things they've been doing. But so I started researching the researchers and came up with this amazing team that are very actually near to me in the UK. And that young guys, super smart. They did a very clever thing, which was they took bloods off their COVID patients right from the very beginning and have followed up with them regularly. So they've got amazing data. And when you're doing research, it's all about data.
Sure.
Anyway, so I went and met them and they couldn't fix me, which was a bit annoying. but they're working on some really, really good things and in the hope of finding out what's going on with long COVID. And so they needed funding because they are not funded by the government and they're not funded by big pharma. So I thought, right, okay, I'll see what I can do. There's been a lot of fundraising, philanthropic things happening in the States with cast reunions. In fact, the Princess Bride one I watched from here, even though it was like 3 a.m, because I love Princess Bride so much. And I realized that nobody had done a Dynasty one. And so I jumped on the bandwagon really to make sure that I was the first one to do that.
Awesome.
But I didn't know if anyone would, obviously a crucial part to the whole thing is that my ex-cast members agreed to do it because just,
sure
you
that
know,
helps.
me and one other person wouldn't quite be a big draw. But they've virtually, not all of them, but almost all of them have agreed to do it. And it turns out it's the biggest cast reunion of Dynasty ever.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course nobody's being paid. It's all for charity, and it's an unofficial event. We can't say it's anything official about it, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
and it's so heartwarming to me that all these people who I worked with many years ago, and some I haven't been in touch with for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
We tracked them down, and they've blessed them, said yes.
that's amazing.
wonderful.
What's so cool about it is, you know, in this weird way, this COVID and pandemic we've all been affected by it some degree or another, right?
Sure.
Obviously, some people have had worse situations, but you know, the fact that we can all come together, like you talked about, you haven't seen people for 30 years and like, yeah, I'll do it. And then
Yeah.
I know you're getting a lot of publicity because people love Dynasty so much. So it's kind of like the stars are aligning for this thing to be an incredible event, which I'm excited about. So good for you, Emma. That's awesome. It really is.
Like I
So-
said, I like to be useful.
Yeah.
Where now, and is there a website that people can go to get information about it?
There is. Thank you very much for asking that. It is kind of easy one, dynastyreunion.com.
Oh, that's easy.
Where'd you come up with that?
Man, that took a while to figure out.
We got lucky on that. So yes, that tells everybody about tickets and more about the charity that we're raising money for, and then who's
Awesome.
going to be appearing in it.
Cool.
I had a great business idea. I'm gonna go and start buying domain names. I'm gonna buy Cheers Reunion.
Yep,
I'm gonna buy.
Absolutely.
People do that. They
Yeah.
No, I know.
He will do it. He will do it too. So everyone go to dynastyreunion.com, sign up. Money's going for a great cause. And you're going to see Emma and everybody else who I know some of the names, but I don't know all of them. So I won't list them all. But make sure you check out dynastyreunion.com. That is awesome.
So cool.
Now, Emma, we're going to talk about you now a little bit.
Yay.
Because I don't even know where to start, because when I looked at how long you were actually on General Hospital, it only said 3 years. I know you've been back a few times because I met you, I believe, in the early 90s when you were there briefly. But what an impact you made on the show, because I assumed you were on the show for like 20 years because everybody keeps talking about you. So before we get there, because I know you got some stories. So where did it all begin for you? For the arts, for acting? Where did the interest start?
Well, I ended up in acting by accident almost, because I had originally wanted to be a ballet dancer, and I was at the Royal Ballet School, which was an excellent school to be at. And so it all looked set that that was going to be my career. And then I had a injury that I couldn't get past, and had to stop dancing. Thought about going into medicine, actually, but then the thought of 6 years of medical school was a bit daunting, but I was going to have a go. But then I started being asked to do modeling things, and that just seemed a lot easier.
Sure is.
Sure. So does that mean as a child, dance was what you were into, and that was the thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Is your any members of your family in the arts, or was it just? Oh yes.
Actually, my mother was a ballet dancer. Yes, she was in the ballet company, so that's definitely was my inspiration. And my father was in the film equipment business, rental business. So I sort of grew up being aware of the world of films and television, and but it was from a very practical, the business end of it. And that's why I think as an actor, I've always paid probably more attention than most actors do to, what kind of dolly are they using? And what are you saying by putting that lens on me? It's been quite interesting.
That is a really kind of valuable perspective, though, because sometimes actors walk on the set and they're like, they're all here for me, and like, so for you to have a knowledge of not just what not just the equipment and stuff, but like have an insight into the people that are using that equipment too. That must have been a very
Exactly.
valuable, a really valuable point of view.
And I have always, as a result of that, tended to, no offense to actors, but I have tended to hang out with the crew,
Sure.
probably more than the actors.
That's
Yeah.
pretty smart.
Now,
Yeah.
when you were modeling, did you stay home or did it turn into something a little bigger where you were traveling internationally, or how did that work out?
I was very short for a model. I'm 5'4.5" now, and I didn't stop growing till I was about 21. So when I started modeling at 17, I was even shorter than that, and that is way too short for a model. But I got a fantastic gig as the face of a huge makeup company in Japan.
Oh.
So I used to go and spend months out of every year working in Japan on my own, no internet. There wasn't even any UK or English television channels in Japan at the time. So
And how was that?
Yeah. How old were you at, like 18, 19, that kind of?
17.
17 when you booked that. Wow.
I know.
And you went without anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I used to write letters home, and wait for them to write back. It was
what a different
process.
world we live in now. Oh my goodness.
Well, and at that time,
that's awesome.
At that time, did they acknowledge the fact, oh, you're 17, here are the people, like, did they set you up in a way that you felt safe, or was just like, hey, here's your keys to, or did they put you in a model house, those kind of things? I know a lot about modeling, but yeah.
Put me in a hotel. So
okay.
It was fine. And I learned a bit of Japanese because only one person would speak English. So I had to, in order to communicate with anybody else other than her, I had to, so I spoke a little Japanese. Couldn't read it because good grief. I mean, that is difficult. Sure. And we did a big campaign in France, in Paris. So we traveled a bit as well with the Japanese crew. I mean, it was fascinating, and I took it completely for granted because it was my first modeling job. So, this is modeling, right. Okay,
right? Yeah.
But it was a really big deal in Japan that even the jingle from the first commercial that we did went to number 4 in the charts or something nutty like that. So,
jingle?
Wow, that's amazing.
I know. So I became a bit of a minor celebrity in Japan.
Yeah.
It was very odd. You'd walk around and there'd be these huge billboards where, even one nostril of mine was 2 foot.
Wow.
It made me realize that modeling wasn't particularly the thing I wanted to do with my life, because whilst it was a great job to have, you don't really need much of a brain to be a model, and therefore they kind of assume that you don't have one.
That's true.
And that gets a bit frustrating after a while. So I thought I'd go into acting.
Well, that's good. How did you make that transition into acting?
Oh yeah, the smartest people around are known to be actors.
Yes. And they really respect our brains, don't they?
Yeah, sure. I was saying
all the time.
You must have grown a bigger brain or something to get into acting. I don't know what happened.
But no, so that transition was, again, ridiculously easy, because easier than it should have been, because I went to see an agent and they said, have you any experience acting? No. Any training? No. Right, we'll take you on, which was surprising. Exactly.
Well, what's funny is nowadays they're like, oh, a fresh face. Yes. Like,
no, I think that's what they were thinking with a British accent. That's kind of cute.
Was that in the States though, or
no? This was in the UK, but I went to the States and had similar experience. With the fresh face thing. But the first audition they sent me to was for the female lead in a big feature film, and I got the part.
Oh my goodness!
So again, I'm thinking like, nice.
Yeah, this is easy.
This is
billboards, movies. Come on.
Yeah.
But of course, I soon realized that I didn't know much about acting and had a lot to learn. But it was a fantastic experience. I had obviously learned a little bit from modeling. I had learned something about acting from that, but not much. The one thing I did learn was that it's an interesting environment to be around other women and men who are in that business, and it was very competitive, and modeling was, and I found acting to be much more helpful, generally speaking. But modeling world was quite nasty, and there was one girl in particular on this. I did a commercial for Polaroid cameras, and this one girl was so mean to me, so mean. And I was 17. Actually, I think I was even 16 at the time, so it was uncalled for, I think. But the good news was that a year later, when I got this big job in the feature film, my first acting job, and I'd been there for about a month. We shot it at Pinewood Studios. I mean, it was extraordinary, and they looked after me really well. And I walk in and I see a picture of this girl, the one who had been so nasty to me, on the wall. And I said, what's she doing here? And they said, oh, she starts tomorrow. She plays your slave.
That's awesome.
Oh, amazing.
She had to kneel at my feet.
Oh my goodness. That is.
There's a lesson in that, isn't there?
Yeah, there sure is. You got to treat people kindly. That's for sure.
Speaking of lessons, were there any, in terms of acting, like what were those, if that was your first acting job on a stage like that, or in an experience like that, there must have been some things that you took from that.
There was so much to learn. And I don't think I was very good, actually. I genuinely don't think I was very good at all at the beginning. I was amazing I ever got another job, to be honest.
Was there anyone on set who kind of was, because I didn't really have a lot of experience when I started at 16, 17 years old. And there was always someone that I kind of gravitated toward who would kind of, teach me a few things or whatever it was. Was there someone there for you?
Well, it wasn't really until I started on General Hospital that I started learning about the art of acting, and that was a couple of years. That was a couple of years later. So, as I say, it's amazing. I even got that job.
Well, when that movie was released, did it change your life in any way? Did people start seeing you like, oh, that's the girl from this movie, or did it not have that kind of effect?
It didn't really. It got me another job in America. So it got me to America. It got me a miniseries with Mark Harmon. Actually, my first ever screen kiss was Mark Harmon.
Oh, Mark Harmon.
Hey, that's not so bad.
I know. Well,
yeah,
I know.
not so bad.
But I still wasn't very good at acting, I don't think. It was a fun job to do, and it was great that I got the job. But I still worked, as a waitress, and I certainly didn't feel like, oh, I've got this, this is
right
going to work for sure. No, mind you, does any actor ever think that? I don't think so.
But that miniseries got you from England to LA.
Yes.
And were you excited about that move? Once you got that movie, you're like, all right, I'm in the movies now. LA is the place to go. Or does someone in England think, oh, I can stay here and do it?
No, I knew that if I wanted to do film and television, that even though there's obviously a decent business in the UK, but I knew that LA was the place to be. So it did seem like the natural move. And even though I, had no money and I had saved up a little bit from my modeling, so that helped a bit. But no, I worked as a waitress, a really bad waitress. And of course, I was working in a deli where there was food that was so American that I had never heard of it. I didn't know what a Kaiser roll was. I mean,
that's hilarious.
That's it. Were your parents excited for you?
No. No, they knew enough about the business to know this was a bold move, to say the least.
Right.
So you were your early 20s at that point?
Yes. So about 20. Yeah.
So your parents had to go, maybe you shouldn't go over there.
Well, they knew better than to say that.
Oh, well,
right.
There you go.
I know what, if they had said, oh yes, that's exactly the place we want you to go. Please go there. Would that have worked better? Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Maybe she would have stayed. I know. That's it. Exactly.
The old reverse psychology trick.
Yes. So you're working as a waitress, you have an agent, obviously, right? And you're going out on auditions.
Yes.
And
one of them is General Hospital.
And how did that go down?
Well, I had never seen General Hospital, and I think that was probably a good move because I wasn't scared to death. I didn't know about Luke and Laura, you know, that gave me an advantage, I think. And the part originally was for American, and I did the first 2 readings with an American accent, and then Gloria clocked that I was actually British. I think I said something on the way out that was, you know, my usual accent. And you know, as Gloria was so brilliant at doing, give us, you know, do it again, but with your real accent. And that's how that whole, I mean, massive storyline ensued about crazy British relatives and so many things. So but I did do a lot of auditions. It was a crucial part because they were still trying to get Luke, the character of Luke, a romance post Laura, which of course the audience were not receptive to at all, understandably.
Sure.
Right.
And I did a screen test with Tony, and that's what got me the job, because he and I just clicked, and it was marvelous right off the bat working with him. And he's the person who taught me the most about acting of anyone ever, for sure, 100%.
Not a bad person to learn from.
Exactly.
But probably, yes, not knowing who the character of Luke was, not knowing, you could walk into that room and not be like, oh my gosh, I'm working with that guy, the guy that was on the magazine, Time magazine. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big...
You didn't read Time magazine either, obviously.
No, it was the cover of Newsweek, wasn't it? The wedding.
Oh, maybe it was Newsweek. Yeah.
Time as well. I mean, it was now I look back on it and think, oh my goodness, you know, I was lucky that I wasn't lynched on the way out of the studio.
It was one of the biggest TV events ever, you know, and you came in right after that, and that's why
they had tried 2 other sort of possible romances with him previously. So they had tried Janine Turner and they had tried Demi Moore, and the audience was not having it, either one of those. So I think they had kind of paved the way for me, really, because the audience was just worn down. It's like the reaction to me was, oh, all right,
she's
fine,
like,
we'll take her.
She has a cute accent. Fine, she's in.
Oh, okay.
And
so what was that like, though? You know, going from doing the miniseries and other things, the movies that you've done, thrown into daytime. I know it's its own animal. So
yeah, did you enjoy the process, or was it a challenge? Like, did it come off as like?
It suited me down to the ground. The routineness of it, and of course, it's a different show every day. But in those days, in the olden days, you know, we used to spend the morning. You get the blocking, you get a proper rehearsal, then you get another dress rehearsal, and then you do it. So you had time to really perfect the scenes. And then you would, you know, in between you get notes from Gloria, which was always terrifying. But you really felt like you were part of a very creative process. And so it was really cool for me. I just absorbed everything and learned as much as I could from every single person that I encountered. And there's some such good actors in daytime, and skilled other people. I mean, you know, every single person on the set of especially of General Hospital, of course, because I'm biased. But every single person is there because they are really good at their job. They are really hardworking, and they're easy to get on with, because pretty much if you're a jerk, they won't keep you around. There's no time for them.
Isn't that lovely?
Yes.
the
jerks just kind of get weeded out, and I'm not sure that happens everywhere.
No.
No, it does not. No, not anymore.
But it even, you know, it obviously in even like with actors, you get a popular actor that might be a jerk, and you're like, oh, I guess we're stuck with them, and that hasn't seemed to happen. I mean, here and there, but
Gloria was the one who actually hired me at the end of her reign, we'll say.
Yeah,
I was one of the last persons that she okayed.
Right.
So I was there for a little while with Gloria, not too long, but I could definitely see why she was so great in what she did. She was amazing. I mean, You know, and you're right. People loved being there. When I was there, you know, obviously we were there a decade apart, but you know, the same people are some of the same people are still there.
Yes.
Which is amazing, you know, and that's where I hear all the fun stories from.
I know.
Right? It's such a thrill the times that I've been back since. And that's a thrill to be asked back for 30 years. My goodness, that's just extraordinary. But yeah, when you come across, you know, like Craig, who used to be in props and is now the
stage manager.
Yeah.
You know, oh my God, Craig was one of Craigers, as we call it.
Yep.
Was one of the people who completely made my life so much easier by,
he does that for a lot of people.
Yeah, he's the perfect stage manager.
He is the best.
Because
and he still has those jeans from 1982. So
yeah, and the shirt, by the way. And the shirt. He still looks like Magnum PI. So it's so I don't know. That guy does not age, by the way.
No,
it's because he does those deep squats when he gets on set.
I know he's always stretching, you know, doing yoga.
He never sees daylight, you know, sunlight.
I know.
Never hits his face.
This guy's a science experiment for sure. Like, he's never seen daylight. He eats at midnight. He eats dinner at midnight every night. And it's like, it's amazing. But so being on that show, the popularity, did you get to experience the, you know, the GH
how did your life change when you
time?
Joined the show? Did your life really change?
Yes, completely.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a well-loved show, and the audience is so demonstrative, and you feel it. You wherever you go, you know, during the day, even if you're not at work, you feel that, and that's obviously such a thrill, because if you've been struggling to get into that line of work and to find yourself doing something that so many people are enjoying, is a complete dream come true. And to be working with people who I really liked, and to be learning so much, and to have a regular paycheck, you know,
I mean,
that's, oh my goodness.
Did you quit your table waiting job right away?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Yes.
Good for you.
No more Kaiser rolls for you. All right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you were there for 3 years. What was why did you end up leaving the show?
Because I got offered a job on Dynasty, and that's really the only way I would have left.
Sure.
I would still be there now permanently if they would have had me for this long, because I loved it that much. But I got called in to see the spelling people, and they said, "Oh, you could be the new Fallon," because Pamela Martin had left a couple of years before that, and it was, you know, I didn't even have to read for it; they just offered it to me, and
wow.
it was just such a great opportunity that that I took it, and I'm glad that I did. I mean, gosh, Dynasty did for my life internationally what General Hospital did nationally, you know. Wasn't a country that I could go to that didn't know about Dynasty. I remember I went to the Galapagos Islands, and there's only one of the islands has got anyone living on it, and that in that little tiny town, only one person has a television, and they knew Dynasty.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That's
and awesome.
They were on this Dynasty was ABC as well, and
yes,
so
I did them both at the same time. There was I doubled up.
Amazing.
Which was nutty as anything, as you can imagine.
What a dream come true.
Where did Dynasty film?
Not that far away, thankfully.
Okay.
In those days, the studios were fairly close. But the trickiest part was that my two characters had different hair colors.
Oh.
So there was a lot of rinsing in, rinsing out. That's
wow.
Yeah.
So were you at Sunset Gower, or were you a Prospect? You were at Sunset Gower.
Well, both. I've done both. Yeah.
Right, but originally the 80 when you were there in
82. Oh yes, that was at Sunset. Yeah.
Sunset Gower, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Did your hair really suffer from that? All the rinsing?
It was a nightmare. It was like straw by the end.
Oh my gosh.
Were you a part of any of the cool locations that they did? Yes. Do you remember? What did you get to do?
We did Victoria in Canada, the island. We did San Antonio. We went all over.
Okay, now you're bragging.
Yeah, all right. Was that Dynasty or GH?
GH.
Oh wow. When did GH go to San Antonio?
There was a culmination of a big story that
Pre-COVID, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, was it doubling for somewhere else, or was it supposed to be?
No, it was San Antonio.
Oh, well.
Were you trying to find the Alamo with?
I think the
Tristan?
Alamo featured in it at some
Oh
point.
wow!
Well, I mean, if you're going to San Antonio, why else would you go to see a Spurs game? Luke and Laura go to a Spurs game.
No, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah,
that's not going to work.
And so your whole tenure on Dynasty, you weren't doing both shows the whole time, were you?
No, it was about 3 months where there was a double up.
And that was at the start, or was that more into? Oh, okay. Because in Dynasty, that lasted for how long?
Dynasty, I was on it for 4 years, but one of those seasons was Colby's because we had a spin-off. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But even there was back and forth with even then, and then went back onto Dynasty after Colby's finished. So it felt very similar.
Wow. So what an amazing run. And so once you've accomplished that, and once you're there, like, and you're still, you're still only late 20s at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you had what did you want to do next?
Well, now it's just the only thing you could do next is be the Queen of England. That's it. I mean, that's the only thing. I know what else you gonna do?
I know you're a member of the Empire, so you almost got there, right?
It's a start.
Is Dame next? Can you get there, or is it like is it cumulative?
I have an MBE, which is an award given to me by the Queen, and that was unbelievable.
That's pretty special.
MBE means member of the British Empire, but it's an award for it's not to do with my acting at all. It's just to do with the charity I started.
That's pretty cool.
So that was quite cool. But yes, a step in the right direction towards being actual royalty.
Yeah.
So at that point, like, where were you just auditioning for other stuff, or did you feel like, hey, I got to get out of here, I got to take a break, I'm burnt out, I've been working for 8 years straight? What was it?
Well, I actually went on to another show almost right away, another spelling show called Models Inc.
Oh, I remember Models Inc.
Yeah, a couple of seasons on that, which was really good fun. And then that was the point at which I thought I need to sort of take a break, and I was writing. I had started writing a few years before that, and miraculously my first script actually got made into a TV movie.
Wow.
And then I sold the second one. So I thought, no, I'm gonna try and do both now, and I've always had a side career right from way back when as a photographer. And in fact, going along with my first jobs being insanely, ridiculously good, my first job as a photographer was a big campaign for Revlon. So,
oh my goodness. Right.
Wow.
So I've always kind of tried to be diverse, because I think for actors that is really important.
Oh gosh.
Not just financially, but also for perspective,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just for the creative outlet of doing things too as an artist.
It is that weird thing, because and I'm not sure if it's just in the last 20 years where they talked about, hey, well, if you want to be a professional athlete, you need to do 10,000 hours of this, or like that specializing thing that everyone in the last 10 to 15 years has focused on. But I always think that the best actors are the most well-rounded people, and the best way to book a job is to not need the job. The
desperation never gets you.
Yeah, desperation stinks. So when they talk about making acting, and obviously you have to be skilled, and or sometimes you just kind of
get
lucky. Yeah. Right. But
no,
so it's an interesting thing, and obviously every person's different, and they're going to find their way differently. But I hear a lot of this, like, okay, well, hey, if you want to be successful, you gotta put your head down and just do it and do it and do it. And I get that. There's got to be a balance of some sort. Yeah.
And tunnel vision isn't good for the creative process, and it's certainly not good for the soul, I think.
Yeah.
And there's also a whole dangerous a thread now of people saying, if you want something enough, if you work hard enough, you will get it. And that's not true. And it's not fair. There are some people who are not suited for one reason or another to something that they've set their heart on. And to be told you're not getting it because you don't want it enough, what? It's not, there's so much luck involved.
Especially in the arts, right? Because arts are subjective.
Yeah.
Right. So you could do 10,000 hours of acting class. That doesn't mean you're going to get a job. But if you do 10,000 hours of studying to be a doctor, you might probably end up being a doctor.
It's not a meritocracy. It's not a meritocracy.
That's right. That's right.
And you have to accept that. Otherwise, it will really do a number on your emotional health, I think.
Sure.
One thing I love about, so my wife now is we both studied acting at NYU, and we both
You're
have
very
worked
good, by the way. You're very good. I've seen you. And I remember, I think I even asked someone if I could do some scenes with you, but it wasn't arranged. But no, I've noticed you.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're good too, of course.
I will not make that happen now. You'll never work with him again. Thank you so much.
Yes, my wife is back at her alma mater, an all-girls high school, as the head of the drama department. And a lot of those girls are interested in training and going to college for acting or performing and whatever. And my instinct as a dad and as someone that has done this is like, no, don't do that. That's too hard. Like, pick a easier, less, emotionally crushing life. But what I love about acting training and performance training and those experiences that come along with that is if you keep your head up instead of doing tunnel vision, like we talked about, those skills that you get doing that, the people skills, the,
emotional intelligence,
totally.
And, empathy, those skills, the ability to listen and not just talk, like all those people skills, boy, other industries crave people with those skills. And you might find your fit in another industry and be better equipped to succeed in that industry because of what you've learned in your training as an actor, as a performer. And so it's interesting because, and Steve and I talk a lot about like, the LA track or the New York track or the London track, whatever. But because the New York track, or I think most of the time, the London track involves a lot more, maybe sometimes traditional education or whatever, like there's more opportunities to get pulled into other industries, either through side jobs or because of teachers or whatever. And I love that because those skills in the world disseminated are useful.
Yes, that is so true. That is, nothing's wasted.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
and there's 1,000 roads to what we do, not just one.
That's true too.
I never had any acting lessons, and of course that's a dangerous thing to say because people will say, yes, we wondered what it was.
Yeah, I didn't really learn how to act until about 10 years into my career. So, I mean, that's just how it is. You just learn on the job, fortunately.
How is the show these days?
Show's fun. I mean, we've been.
I can't see it here, so I don't know what's happening.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's so funny. We talk to people from other shows and, like people on Bold and the Beautiful that are like, oh, I'm huge in Italy. And they're like, where are you guys big? And we're like, Dayton.
New Jersey,
like, it's still funny. We're the only show that doesn't have any.
Not international.
Yeah.
But it's great. I mean, during these times we were the first ones back.
I know.
We were the first ones up and running. There hasn't been any positive COVID tests for a long time. Amazing. So kudos to Frank and Dominic Nuzzi there, who basically got us back first and said, hey, let us be the experiment. Yeah. And now everybody's kind of following our protocols and we're crushing it.
So important for the audience to have had you guys back. I've heard so many people explain how much it's meant to them that they get to see you. It's a bit of normal. It's
Right.
entertainment, and and entertainment is very undervalued, I think, except maybe now through COVID, it's been, I think, realized that this is crucial to people's well-being.
Yeah.
Were you supposed to come back, or are you coming back, or what's happening? Do we know anything? Can you say anything?
Well, I was supposed to come back. It was all scheduled and arranged, then shut down because of the pandemic, and then me getting sick.
Sure.
So stop that. I did do that one little scene from home, from my guest room.
Awesome.
Which was me being, held hostage in some mysterious location.
So great.
What was it? Was it like,
It's just me on my own in a room.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Cool.
so that was, it was bizarre to do a scene from here, that was going to be on there, but it was so great that they arranged it and made it happen.
Sure.
So it meant that story is sort of on hold. And now it's a matter of when travel is safe and when I'm well enough.
Yeah, when you're well enough. That's amazing. Well, I know you've always been a fan favorite, and I've heard nothing but awesome things about you. And I hope you come back and we get to work together, or maybe you get to work with Bradford first and then realize he's not as good as you thought.
Oh,
and then I'll take over. And it'll be great. Plus, I'm excited about this Dynasty reunion. So I think it's going to be so great for the fans and just for the charity, everything. So kudos to you for doing it.
And again, it's
DynastyReunion.com. Go ahead, Brad.
That's right. DynastyReunion.com. And Emma, thank you. What a treat this has been. So nice to get to know you and really get to visit.
Well, for me too. Lovely to talk to you guys. Thank you so much.
This is awesome. And I love how you had, I'm assuming that was tea. So you were drinking some tea during this is amazing. This is
it's the wine shortly after this, but
yes.
Well, I just want to be in that room with you having a glass of wine. That's what I would really enjoy.
One has to be professional about these things,